Thank you, and welcome to the May 13th, 2008 meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. May we have roll call, please?
Agency members: Raymond.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Yusefian.
Here.
Chairman Najarian.
Here. May we have your report?
Agenda for the May 13, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency was posted on Thursday, May 8th, 2008 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What's the next item?
Next is approval of minutes.
So moved. Second.
Are there any abstentions? Okay. If there are no objections or corrections proposed, the minutes for those meetings will be approved as submitted. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. Discussions limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the redevelopment agency may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the executive director for an investigation and a report.
Thank you. I have a card from Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon. My name is Herbert Milano. Agency members and city staff. 4 years ago, during the debate of the Americana, one of the major issues that was being presented as a potential deficit to this problem was the problem with traffic. It's I don't know if deficit would be the right way to put it, but I would say it was a major concern, and it was one of the key issues that general growth was, should we say, supporting. The fact that we could have such a significant problem with traffic. And I want to tell you that of all the trips that I've made so far, either coming down Brand or coming down Central, I have not seen any signs of any major type of traffic congestion coming into the Americana. A couple of occasions I went to the Galleria. I found a little bit more traffic going into the Galleria, but nonetheless, none of the fears that we had back then have come to fruition. And I want to commend, the city and everyone who's put the effort into this thing, and I hope that it is sustainable. But it really is a fantastic turn of events that all the fears that we had did not actually arise. The second topic I want to bring about is the topic of your campaigns and campaign contributions as it pertains to your decisions. As you are now moving through obtaining funds and resources for running your campaign, I would hope that we could put into practice perhaps a new ethical approach to the decisions that you make concerning new projects and decisions that you make with regard to redevelopment. My suggestion is that if you did receive any type of funds exceeding $250, that you disclose it prior to or immediately after a closed session. That allows the public to know that you received funds from a developer or anyone who has a special request for a zoning variance or any of the sort. I think it's a good time for us to begin a process of bringing into practice the whole concept of better transparency. Thank you.
I can tell you, Mr. Milano, that the lack of any major traffic problems is only a testament to the many hours of work by the city manager as well as his group of executives and police officers, and it was certainly something that the agency and the city council had mandated, that we did not want to have any of those potential traffic tie-ups. That concludes oral communications. May we have the next item, please?
The business agenda at 6A is a public hearing, Director of Development Services, regarding sign variance for property located at 2148 Glendale Galleria. At 6A1 is a motion approving variance for 5 banner signs based on findings and conditions made pursuant to Glendale Municipal Code 2005, Title 30, Chapter 30.43.
Mr. Lanzafame, do you have a report on this, or?
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like a brief report, Senior Redevelopment Project Manager Mark Berry can give you one. Basically what you have in the written document there.
I think we've all seen the signs, anyone who's been out there, so we know what they are. It's is there any issue, let me ask you this, with regard to the manner in which they are affixed? Or is that satisfactory?
Our recommendation would be to have them framed in a frame that's large enough that shows some substance and shows a more permanent fixture, although we would recommend that the variance be for no more than 6 months. I think the members of the representatives here of the Glendale Galleria would agree with that.
Ms. Van Meiden?
Just want to mention, this is a public hearing.
Okay, so I will open the public hearing. I don't see any cards on this issue, so I will close the public hearing. Mr. Draymond?
Well, oddly enough, I've had feedback from a variety of people who, I can't say are people I know, but they're people who knew that I served on the council and came up to me to talk to me about this in the past few weeks, just their impressions. I just want to say that, just so the public understands, this is a variance that, this is something we don't allow other businesses to do. Of course, the Glendale Galleria is unique in that it is a large engine for the city and continues to be actually an engine that ranks in the state and nationwide. I'm inclined to support the variance. However, my concern was the last part that Mr. Lanzafame added, which was with regard to the length of time. My only concern about the banners is simply that they look like banners, and I just wish they looked like something a little more, how do I put it, a little less like a vinyl banner hanging on the side of a brick wall, that they were framed or somehow a little more, even though they're not permanent, a little more permanent looking. But the time frame is what bothers me, because I really don't want to see vinyl banners hanging on the side of the Galleria during the Christmas season. I just don't. I don't mind if we're giving a variance related to signage, but I just wish they were upgraded a little bit, and I have a problem with just vinyl banners hanging on the side of the building while we are going to try to put our best foot forward during a retail season that's going to mean a lot to this city, not just because of the Americana and not just because of the Glendale Galleria, but because it's a rough economic season for retailers everywhere. But in our city, it's going to be a rough retail season that we really want to do our best citywide, retail-wise. And it just bothers my sense of aesthetic to whatever degree that matters to anybody. So, Phil, that is my concern, is that it's 6 months will put us into Christmas. And I'd like to see them upgraded before then. Thank you,
Mr.
Well,
Pardon me.
Mr. Quintero?
I'm willing to extend the 6-month period to a year or however long it's going to take. But I would also like to see, and it's mentioned in the report, that they're talking about brushed aluminum frame and high-quality light fixtures that would sort of match the frames. And so I don't have any problem with the banners. I think it's needed so that folks who are driving down Central or visiting the Americana will actually see the kind of retail opportunities available at the Galleria. When I see Apple Store, Nordstrom's, Banana Republic, etc., Coach, those are not available at the Hugo Boss. They're not available at the Americana. So I'd like to see these banners sort of stay up until the final kind of build out and the final decisions are made on what the Galleria wants to do with this entrance. But I would prefer to see them upgraded.
Mr. Yusefian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to make one thing very clear. I think that Glendale Galleria is a great asset for the city of Glendale. Do not consider any of my comments as a negative on the Galleria. Couple of things. For someone who worked on the sign ordinance in this city twice, not just once, we worked on it, adopted it, and after a few years it became obsolete, and we worked on it again, and we passed it again. So I know real well what the sign ordinance does, and actually in the redevelopment agency we also did another version of it. And we put a lot of other businesses through the same exercise, pretty much. Generally, we do not allow banners to go up before they get a permit. And apparently in this case, they were up, and now we are seeing it for the first time. I did get emails from people saying, what the heck is going on? And my thinking was, gee, maybe they decided to put it up so we could see what they are going to be asking for. It's for show and tell purposes. I drove by, I looked at it. I would say the quality of the banners are very low, very low. I understand that Galleria doesn't have the same pizzazz look as the town center, but nevertheless, it is a high-end mall. And for a high-end mall to have such cheap banners, you're not doing Galleria any service. So my issue is the quality of the signage. It is signage. That's what it is. And if it's going to be signage, by golly, do a good job on creating a decent signage, something that is either backlight or it's lit somewhere differently so you could see it at night. It's quality. It's not just kind of waving in the wind. It looks, how can I say it, cheap. And so that's my issue. My second issue is, unless you're going to come back, and I'm assuming you're going to come back for some type of a sign program modifications because you have a sign program in Galleria as part of your signage. If you're going to come back for that, for real signage, I could see it on a temporary basis. On temporary, to me, generally we give people temporary for 30 days. I can make an exception, but the most I can make an exception for is maybe 3 months. I am not into a whole year, 2 years, 6 months, and I agree with Mr. Draymond. Holiday season, when people come to Glendale Galleria, and you know how crowded you get, barely parking spaces, you could make more money at parking spaces, by the way. Nevertheless, you know, that's what you're going to be presenting to them, and I don't think that's appropriate. And also, all the other retailers kind of look and say, how come I can't get that? Why aren't I allowed? I remember we turned down, a center? There wasn't a center right across from on Brand Marketplace. Came in with some type of signage, and it looked like a regular box sign. We just sent them back and told them it was innovative enough, come back with something decent. And so they came back with something. If they had showed up with something like this, I don't think they would have got in through the front door. But, as I said, I will vote for a variance, but the timeline will be only for 3 months, or 90 days. Anything more than that, I will vote against it. So I just want you to know. Now, you come back with decent signage, nice, beautiful signage, and I understand you have to be competitive, and I have no problem with that. Competitive is good. More people go to Galleria, more money they make. Boy, I'll tell you, Town Center was the best thing that could have happened to you guys. All I see is people walking around with Target and Macy's and everything else in their hand as they cross to the Town Center. But nevertheless, I want a little bit of an upgrade than what you got out there. So that's my spiel.
Mr. Weaver.
As soon as Mr. Yusefian's start, the Galleria is a great asset to the city, drawing more people than Disneyland in a year. You can't knock it. Donahue Shriver built a great project during the 1970s, and it's great. General Growth bought it for an inflated price of $420-some million, and have not been a good partner to the city. Approximately how much money did the city spend defending against General Growth? Anybody on staff know? If I throw out $1.5–2 million of the Glendale City taxpayers' money, I'd probably be pretty close. And when I and others saw those signs across the street, those vinyl signs, and I called staff, what was I told? Anybody want to tell me what I was told? Well, I'll tell you what I was told. Staff told General Growth to take the signs down. Anybody want to tell me what General Growth's response was? They wouldn't take them down. Good community partner. They wouldn't take them down. They put them up. And now, after the fact, they want an approval. They've known that the Americana was being built for over 2 years. Did they do anything on Central to improve Central? Oh, no, nothing. Then in a week or two before, they put in some palm trees and put a couple of illegal signs up. Code permits 1 8-square-foot sign. They put up a 764-square-foot sign. And now, like we've heard on other things over my years on council, we did it, but now give us approval for it. You know, if they'd come the right way, did a sign program, what they wanted, that'd be something different for me to consider. But General Growth is not one iota of wanting to be a good community group here. General Growth has the feeling, coming out of Chicago, they can tell the city what to do, and we better bend over or else. Well, I don't go for that, and I never will. General Growth has a lot to do to improve the Galleria to current modern-day standards. I've talked to vendors in, or people in the Galleria. Their business improved as soon as Americana opened. Had more business they've had in a long time. We said that was going to happen. General Growth didn't even believe it. When somebody goes and does something and then turns around and wants me to say it's okay to have done it, and okay after the fact, I'm not going there. So the vote will be 4-1. And until General Growth gets their act together, don't come near me.
Okay. I've heard pretty much what my colleagues have said. Points are taken. I've seen the signs. Yes, I would have liked to have this come before us, before the signs went up. Yes, the Galleria certainly is a major part of the economic engine of the city. I think looking forward and not looking too far back, I think the Galleria management has shown some cooperation with the city, with the opening of the Americana, in terms of some of the traffic flow, in terms of some of the parking, not questioning where the shoppers are ultimately headed once they park in the parking garage. I would like to see a higher quality type of sign placed there. I don't have a problem with the Galleria doing that, giving them the permission to do that. They are a unique enterprise, a business composed of businesses. I'm not a designer, but some of the recommendations here about the aluminum frame and the gooseneck light fixtures, in my mind, sound pretty good. It would be a little bit of an upgrade to, and more of a permanent nature there. To also give some lighting in the evenings. I would be in favor of giving them the variance for the existing signs for a certain reasonable period of time, to give them a chance to examine what sort of permanent signs they could come in and apply for with some of those features, and maybe there's additional design features that their designers or architects have in mind. We are in this together. I've always said that we need to work with the Galleria, regardless of what their position was with the Americana. Some of these decisions are not made at this level. They are made up much higher. I think many of the people that we have before us are at a different level of management, where the decisions made for litigation purposes are ultimately formed. So, I'm not sure where we are. I think Bob said you could live with it for 3 months. John, Mr. Draymond?
Chair, somewhere between the diametrically opposed polar ends of this argument, no, not at all, and yes, anything you want, is sort of where I am in a somewhere, I think, with perhaps Mr. Yusefian and perhaps you, Mr. Chair. I understand what Mr. Weaver's saying, It's not lost on me, and I get what he is saying. However, it's going to sound funny, but the Galleria is also a little more than just general growth. There are 250 businesses in there, and those people are putting a lot on the line economically as individual businesses, as entrepreneurs, as proprietors of businesses. They're employing people who are also buying goods and services in our city, and so I understand the sentiment, but I think we have to temper it just a little bit and understand that, would I have, if they were listening to me, would I have said, no, just go put them up and then go and see, about a variance? No, I wouldn't have done that. Am I happy about that? No. As Mr. Yusefian points out, it makes it that much harder for us, believe it or not, even though General Growth and the Galleria are big, important players in this city, but still, when a single proprietor comes forward and says, hey, my copy shop is suffering right now, not coffee, but copy store, and I want to put a banner out on the railing that says, I'm here, I'm open, because I need to pay my rent, and I need to adjust the braces on my kids' teeth, and I need to buy shoes, put food on the table, and we, without a blink, say, sorry, the banner has to come down, but it's helping my business. Sorry, the banner has to come down. We do that on a regular basis in this city. So I'm not thrilled about the idea that it happened in this manner. I don't care for the quality of the banners that are up there. I don't think they speak well of the city, but I don't think they speak well of the Galleria either. So I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Yusefian on this, and the reason I jumped in now, Chair Najarian, is because I want to make it clear where I am with it. Now that I've heard input from my colleagues, I would go along with him on his comment about 3 months, at which time they either put in more permanent signs that are going to be of a higher quality nature, or they come down. I just don't want to go into the Christmas shopping season, fourth quarter, which is so important to all of the retailers in this city, and have our biggest retailers, not the biggest retailer in our city, with vinyl banners on the side of the building on a major thoroughfare in our city. And I'm not sure that's what they want to do anyway. I mean, we're saying this in the abstract. We haven't heard from them yet. So, but that's the condition I would make. Yes, I would vote to grant the variance with the idea that there would be a 3-month timeline, at which time we have, better signage, more permanent signage, not just a vinyl banner with a frame around it and a light, but more professional signage that's there. I just wanted to clarify that.
And let me just be clear on your thought, which I support, but with regard to the 3 months, an approved, the vinyl signs must come down by 3 months, so it would be up to them to get an approved, I should be looking at you, sorry. Well, both actually, because it's an approved permit for a permanent sign with some of the features that have been mentioned, and others if
right. And the point is, I would like to see this happen before the fourth quarter, or by the fourth quarter.
Okay. Mr. Quintero.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from the representatives in terms of what they have in mind and signage and so forth.
Right. Especially, please come forward and identify yourself, and you've heard of what we're thinking about, and let us know if that's something that
I think most of you know me. I'm Joanne Rossi, the general manager, and I apologize. My voice is I've got this thing going on, so if it cracks, I apologize. But I am the general manager, senior general manager for the Glendale Galleria. I've been there for 7 years, and I certainly wanted to let you know I apologize. This is not where I wanted to be today in terms of creating ill will with all of you. The intent was to obviously follow procedure, and that was our intent when we first came to the city in terms of what our plans were. Unfortunately, I did not understand the process that well, and I was told we would be on the agenda the last Tuesday in April, and had already gone forward in producing the signage for the first, which was the grand opening for the Americana, and felt it was very important, as Mayor Draymond said, it's very important for our 250 tenants. I mean, at this level, Chair Najarian, I really work for 250 tenants. I don't think of myself as a general growth employee. I'm the manager of the Glendale Galleria, and I pretty much support those tenants. So my decisions are totally based on that. And that's what I did this for. So when I was told that I needed a 10-day posting prior to the agency meeting, the sign has been produced, and I felt it extremely important for merchants to have that identification. So it, in no ways was it to stub my nose at you or to create ill will. That's certainly not the way I work. So I apologize for that. And but I'm here today to ask how we can go forward. Again, I apologize for my voice. And I wanted to introduce Mark Witt. He is our corporate planner, and he helped us put the project together. So in terms of technical information, I think you can answer a lot of questions. And certainly, Mark, please mention.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Witt. I'm a design manager with General Growth for the Glendale Galleria. And as being involved as part of this project, we were looking at temporary improvements to the Central Avenue in order to improve it for the opening and for the continued vitality of our own tenants in the mall by May 1st. And as part of that, the content of the signage that you were questioning is actually an extension of what's happening on the interior of the mall. The banner look, if you do go into the mall, you'll see it's a continuation of our current advertising campaign on the interior. So there is a tie-in. We would be more than happy to actually take a look at that content and improve it. If you give us a chance to work with staff and make sure we give you a chance to take a look at it after it's been improved. I do think it represents, however, especially the main banner or across the opening of the entry there is in keeping with the current advertising campaign. The others, I think, can be improved. Now, as far as the quality of what is up there, it is vinyl signage. Unfortunately, there was a little problem with acquiring the extruded aluminum frames that these would be tensioned to prior to the installation, because they were being specially painted to match the actual lighting standards that were out there. So we weren't able to get those up at the same time. Be more than happy to install those at this point. I think you'll be impressed by the quality or the look of what that's going to create. It creates a very taut, tension, flat surface over a long period of time, and I think you'd be more than happy. Just an illustration, we just created an image that would show the actual frame. It's very low profile, but here again, we're trying to actually match the color of the light standards that are currently out there. And as part of the overall improvements, we have included improved lighting, a little higher quality of light out there, and also light directed at these signs. I don't know if they've been activated yet or not, but certainly it's for illumination in the evenings as well as on the palm trees at this point. But hopefully that addresses your questions or concerns in regards to the quality of the end product, because certainly we had concerns about that as well. We didn't want them to represent just a banner affixed, but we were also trying to complete things in a manner that we would have something available by the time we received a variance, but obviously that preceded that. So I think it'll be a very nice product once it's installed.
And again, I just wanted to make one last comment regarding why we were doing the improvements at the last hour sort of thing. When the Americana, which is a beautiful project, was going through construction, there was a tremendous amount of construction debris coming across to us, and we were changing out air conditioning units, twice a week. And for us to do the improvements, we were constantly power washing the exterior building as well as. So the timing wasn't right, and we needed to make sure that, so to speak, the dust was settling in a lot of different ways before we did the improvements, because we just wanted to make sure that air was just kept clean from construction dust that was coming across. So it wasn't as though we were kind of timing this to do something that would create any sort of difficult towards the Galleria or the Galleria tenants.
Mr. Yusefian, then Mr. Stark.
To the general growth guy. What you showed me, that's going to look like the final product?
Yes, these the signs will actually be taut. The frame is a tensioning frame, so they're perfectly flat. They're used widely.
I've seen it. I know exactly what it is. That is not what I'm looking for. For a permanent signage, that is not what I'm looking for. It may be perfectly flat, it may be under tension, it may last you 2 years at a time before you change the skin on it. That is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more of a high-end product, something that is substantial. It will, no matter how high tension it is and how flat it is, still a vinyl product. You're stretching it on that frame and making it tight.
Correct.
The other three, I understand you're trying to create an image outside and carry the same image inside, so you got all these banners hanging inside. People don't see the inside banners, they see what's on the outside. Outside is different from inside. And in my opinion, there are many shopping malls that have fantastic signages out there. There are different ways of doing signages out there that you could do a better job than what the red one is. It just doesn't look classy enough to me. Think about signages that are backlit. They do have a cellophane that literally moves and changes every minute or 2 minutes or 10 minutes, something of that nature. Now, some will consider that, in our Glendale, it's considered to be an animated sign. Nevertheless, variances can be applied for those. But it is more classy. I'm not talking about the ones that you see in 42nd Street that is, shiny and all that stuff. It's too much. But there's a better way of just listing the name of those things. You could actually do a little bit better job because they will change every 3-4 minutes or so. So you can give one to, let's say, I don't know, you got Charles and David. You can have Charles and David there for a minute, 3 minutes, and then Macy's will come on, and then after that, Apple will come on. So you have a better thing. That's what I'm trying to get to. So you have something that is nice, it's more permanent, and no matter how much you stretch a canvas, still a canvas is a canvas is a canvas. And that's...
So I don't disagree with you, and we would like to see something permanent as well. We really feel that this should be temporary at this point for other reasons. I think that what was originally requested, the 6-month length of time, would be appropriate, and really we consider them temporary, but we also, the system we were looking at, I think it'll be a nice clean representation or banner at this point until something else can be done.
Okay, Mr. Starbuck.
Well, maybe I'm touching on the other thing. Your time frame for doing something to enliven that entrance beyond just signs? Do you have a time frame?
As you probably know, that's not my bailiwick. But General Growth, as you probably know, this is one of their flagship stores. And since I've been there, and you all know this, it's been extremely successful. And there's no intent of not doing something to the shopping center. But unfortunately, I'm not in that position or sit on those meetings to give you a timeline, unfortunately.
And then second question, Mr. Najarian. With recognizing we only have 2 weeks under our belt of experience with the increased pedestrians and identification with Americana, which I think so far has been quite astounding. Are you planning any other signage in conjunction with this? Have you looked at the center generally, or is this it?
We have done internal signage.
I mean externally.
Externally, we are, again, in terms of interim signage, this is all we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all we're looking at. And that's only for interim signage. So I can't speak to permanent signage for that area. But we certainly know that that's a major entrance for us, and it's a focal point for general growth.
Okay, so let me just maybe summarize or perhaps give some direction that when you're talking about your permanent, these are temporary. When you're talking about your permanent, we're not going to sit here and design it today, because we obviously are 5 different people with different tastes. Some people like the signs that switch names, some people don't.
Sure.
So that's something that you'll do through staff. So focusing on what we have up there now, which you're saying will be fitted with the aluminum frames, how long would you intend on keeping those up? We've put out a 3-month, several of us have put a 3-month time frame. Is that something that you can live with at this point?
I will live with whatever you feel is best. And I'm not going to, if you feel 3 months is the timeline we need, I'm fine with that. And we will work with that. And if that's your decision, we will work with that.
That's certainly what I've heard from three councilmen. Mr. Draymond.
No. In terms of the timeline, you're talking about 6 months, and 6 months puts us through mid-November into the fourth quarter season. I'd like to see at least by what I'm afraid is we're going to get to fourth quarter and we're going to say, yeah, well, we're working on it, and we need some more time, and then we're going to be in a position of saying, take it down, and we're going to be hearing, but it's the height of the retail season. So I'm not getting a firm idea of whether or not you plan to replace this interim signage with something more permanent, or just take down the interim signage. But either way, and I know you can't speak for general growth, but I can't read their minds either. So not knowing that and not getting any kind of assurance on that, then what I'm inclined to say about the timeline is, to me, 3 months, 5 months, by October 1, I'd like to see either permanent signage up there that is of a high quality, or taking it down if it's just interim signage is all.
So that's 5 till October 1.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I forgot to introduce Jeff Page, who is the general manager for JCPenney's, and he did want to speak on the subject, and I didn't quite understand the process. I didn't know that there was public comment. So he is with our group. If you wouldn't mind hearing his comments, I would appreciate it.
Over here.
Jeff Page. I'm store manager at JCPenney and here in the Glendale Galleria. The reason I came today, number one, I don't support the fiasco that's gone on between General Growth and Caruso. I think it's ridiculous. Things should have been done a long time ago, but the bottom line is it's already done. It's here, and we have to do something about it. Contrary to public opinion, sales are not better. The congestion in the mall parking is extremely congested. We've got problems there that we're going to have to deal with. But General Growth's attempt to at least go through the process, they've missed by 10 days, to try and get something up to tell the rest of the world that we're still there, I think is critical. And I agree with you on the signage. I think it can be improved. There's no question. And I think what we need to do is you need to arrive at a timetable that is realistic for both. But I agree with the holiday concept. But they probably can't stand here today and tell you when they're going to have that sign finished. But maybe you give them a week or two to tell you, give you a presentation, and tell when that sign can be up. They can live with that. Because I agree, it's got to be changed, it's got to be updated. But to take it down today, after we put it, it's going to be one more thing in this battle between the two companies, and to me, all that's doing is hurting all of us. But as I said, the congestion in the city, regardless of what has been said so far, I was in that parking lot on Saturday. It took me 45 minutes to get from the third floor to the street. We got a problem, and we have to be able to address that, and we're going to need to work the city, Caruso, and General Growth in order to make that happen. So we got to put things behind us and try and work and move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, I just wanted to respond to that. I am not here today to tell anybody to take down the interim signage today. And my comments have nothing to do, I was not serving on this council through that period, and I was not particularly active on that issue at the time anyway. You're asking for 6 months as interim sign. You can't give me an assurance as to where you're going with it afterwards. So I'm saying, from my viewpoint, by fourth quarter, meaning October 1, it's either gone or it's changed into something else. I just don't want to see vinyl banners in a frame or outside of a frame on one of our premier retail entities in this city that has high visibility on one of our main thoroughfares during the fourth quarter. So if you want to switch it to a high-end sign, fine. I'm not here to say take it down today or tomorrow or the next day. I mean, to me, that's on you all. If you plan to have no signage there after that 5-month period, that's up to you.
It wasn't our understanding that we were being asked to take it down immediately either, but we certainly would comply with the October 1st.
Okay, well, I'm ready to make the motion to...
Motion at 6A1?
Yeah. To approve a sign variance until the 1st of October.
Is there a second?
No, I won't second that, unless the rest of the conditions are added to it.
Well, there's no second motion.
All right, conditions as a permanent sign being presented to the agency, et cetera? Is that what you
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's my understanding, too. That's what they kind of had in mind to begin with.
Is there a second?
Mr. Vice Chair,
Wait, I'm trying to get a second first. Is there a second on that motion?
I'd like to have clarification.
I'm going to go to her next. Is there a second on the motion?
Because she's going to draft.
Wait. I asked for a second on the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I will second the motion.
Thank you. Ms. Van Bydum, then Mr. Starbird.
Mr. Vice
Back to the chair.
Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Chair, just a notation on condition number 6 to add at the end of the sentence that says, the condition says that the authorization granted herein supersedes all prior variance approvals for the project site. It should be added that are in conflict with this variance. That's the addition to condition number 6 pertaining to signs.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to reflect that comment.
Starbird?
Well, I was going to suggest in listening to Mr. Draymond's comments that you could insert a condition that the general growth would have to anticipate that they would file appropriate plans and request appropriate approvals to have a permanent sign in place by October 1, which means they've got to back up from October 1 and figure out what they've got to do to get everything put together and not start that process October 1.
Okay, I'll approve
Could you restate it in its entirety?
You have a motion already for you. You want to withdraw the motion?
Just to add Mr. Starbird's comments to the original motion.
The original motion in our...
As amended?
And the
Okay.
staff report.
Okay. And is that
That's over
seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
October, Mr. Yusefian?
I would like to have Ms. Van Meiden basically tell us the changes to the that was made in the motion from the one that is written. Could you repeat that again?
Yes, I will. I just indicated the change to condition number 6 to include at the end of that sentence that are in conflict with this variance. Condition number 7, which states when the variance will expire, is that the variance will expire it will be October 1st, 2008, due to the limited physical durability of the vinyl banners. That's what is already stated there.
I'd like to have that just say will expire on October 1st. There's no reason to say due to the banners, because then we may run into a problem. Somebody come in and says, gee, these banners last for 10 years. So I think
Condition number 7 will state that the variance shall expire on October 1st, 2008.
Okay. And the section that he added, which is...
Sorry, which was...
By October 1st, they will
filing
have...
of sign program
It
modification.
would be the general growth would take necessary steps to file with the city and/or agency plans and requests for approvals for permanent signage so as to be in place by October 1.
Well, is that something that would need to be incorporated into our variance? Either they would or they wouldn't. I mean, the October 1st is only for the variance. They may choose not to
do anything.
That's a good point.
Right. But if they want a new signage, this is good because it gives them forewarning we're letting them know 5 months in advance, if you want to have permanent signage, in your condition, it basically spells out, you better start the clock now. You better start getting it designed, go through the variance process, because you need to do all that stuff. Hire a sign person, have him do the design, or somebody else is going to do the design, because it doesn't happen overnight.
Well, I don't want to start spelling out what they need to do, because if we perhaps omit a procedure, then they're going to say, well, you told us all we had to do is submit it and get the approval. You didn't say we had to do whatever. Ms. Van Muyden, my point is it'd be cleaner if we just left that out.
Understood, Mr. Chair, members of the agency. If you were inclined to add language in that regard, perhaps what you might consider adding is that the applicant takes steps, appropriate steps necessary for permanent signage to replace the temporary signage, should such permanent signage be desired. There's no obligation for them. They'll be required to remove the temporary signage by October 1st. But if they are going to endeavor to put up permanent signage, then they should be taking steps in the interim period.
Okay, is that okay with the maker of the motion?
Absolutely.
And the second?
Yes.
Let's take roll call,
Wait a
please.
minute, wait. I did want to respond to some of the comments. I just want to make sure that everyone understands a private developer across the street from the Galleria received at a minimum $77 million subsidy in the form of free land. And as far as I know, the sign program was pretty much, the developer got to kind of do his own sign program. Is that correct?
No, not really.
No? Well, that big Americana welcome sign on top of the building on Brand, that...
There was a sign program, and some of which was not disputed, but some of which was discarded. But the sign program that's there today went through the normal process.
And so that big sign on the top of the building, the framed-out sign, is that typical of other signs in Glendale? I've never seen a sign like that in Glendale.
No, but it was part of the specific plan.
Yeah.
Well, let's not rehash.
Well, no, but we want to be sure when people say what they say. I mean, a private developer across the street received just what I described.
I think we're...
No, I'd like to also clear if we're going to clear records, let's clear records. Galleria also received $60 million worth of subsidy when they were being built by John and Shriver, Part 1 and Part 2. So let's not forget that. Okay. Also, when they tore 100 houses in that area to build it, the city manager, talk about power, the city manager did it, signed the agreement, then told the council after the fact.
Let's be clear.
At least
I was
this
just
one,
a kid at the time. I
wasn't here.
in college.
He was a young kid, yeah.
So, but it's neither here nor there.
Look, I think we're just trying to move forward and do what's best for the city, and we don't need to go through the history, because there are arguments that were made that could be made, but we don't have the time for that today. We'll save that for a study session. Roll call, please.
Agency members Draymond.
Yes.
Yes. Weaver.
No.
Yusefian.
Aye.
Chairman Najarian.
Yes. I think that, next item, please.
Agency member or staff comments?
Any comments? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Agency is adjourned.